I'm assuming you clicked on this video because you're struggling to land a UX design interview. Well, if what you're doing today is not working, then it's time to fix your approach. And I am here to give you one based off of my experience of hiring UX design interns in the past. So in this video, I'm gonna help you figure out what the problem is, and from there, help you adapt and create a strategy that's going to work for you. No frills, let's just jump into it. Let me break it down for you. So right now, more than ever, there are a ton of UX designers coming out of boot camps or self-taught or through university programs looking for UX design jobs. And because of this, it's creating a massive wave of portfolios and applicants that are going into a single role. So in this massive sea of portfolios, that one's you. So you hope that your portfolio will make it along through the funnel that is the interview process and make it out on the other side and land that one single job. And of course, these applicants and portfolios essentially look the same to every recruiter and hiring manager because the case studies are basically all carbon copies of one another. These boot camps have a generic template that they give out to all of these designers, and essentially all the case studies start to look the same. Now you can imagine for a hiring manager or recruiter, it can get kind of overwhelming because you're like, why do these all look the same? How am I supposed to know who's who? If someone likes pasta and the other person likes to get their nails done outside of work, that doesn't really help me make a decision, does it? Now you understand that this entire process is a massive shot in the dark. So how are we gonna fix this? In this new world, I can see a lot of new UX designers niching down in order to stand out from the crowd. Now imagine this. Basically, you have all of these different UX niches or areas or industries. For example, I'm going to make this a star for e-commerce. I'm going to do a square for CRM. I'm going to do a diamond for gaming and maybe this heart shape for mobile. And there's definitely more, and I'll give you a list later, but let's just keep it to this for now. Let's say you choose CRM as your specialized focus. And so finally, when a CRM company has an open role, you're in the pool amongst all of these generalized circles. And not only do you already have an upper hand because you're a perfect match one-to-one to this company, but you have an actual higher chance of making it through the funnel because it's your expertise. Now, I know what you're thinking. I don't want to miss out on all of the other opportunities. Here's the thing though. Specializing doesn't mean that you're out of the game for all the other roles that are out there. Yes, it might take a little longer for you to get that role and wait for it to pop up. However, you're just going to have a much higher chance of actually landing that role, not just from the phone interview, but through rounds and rounds of portfolio presentations to all of the different interviews with engineers and PMs. And you can keep that through line of like, this is my specialty, this is my niche, and I am supposed to be here. I also hate to tell you this because it sounds harsh, but we no longer live in a world anymore where a generalized portfolio is going to be a fast ticket to landing a UX design job. I myself, even on this channel, and I will find clips for proof, vary the projects that you show on your portfolio. Make sure you pick one of everything. That doesn't mean that's the only approach. It really is a shame because back then, there were more companies with so many open roles that they would scoop a bunch of people up. So much so that they would scoop up like hundreds of interns straight out of college or even like anyone learning from a university or boot camp, and they would just hand out these roles like literal candy. But now they're being so selective to a point where they're only taking on one single person out of the many, many new UX designers. So my take on it is that what is the harm in trying a new approach? As I get further onto this video, I also want to make a disclaimer that when I say to niche down or specialize, there's two ways of potentially doing it. So the two ways is you could either niche down based off of a certain part of a design process. Let's just say you become a master expert in user flows. You're very good at mapping. That's like your bread and butter. Or you become really, really good at UX research, or prototyping is like your literal dojo, like you crush it in there. I would say that's more about being an expert in a certain design process. The one I'm actually talking about and I'm more betting on really is more, I would say, like industry wise. And that's where we go back to my paper example of CRMs or healthcare or fintech. I'm going to name a bunch more here in a little bit. So I know what you're thinking. You're probably like,
Mimi, how in the world am I supposed to niche down? I don't know how to choose a niche. I barely know what I'm gonna eat for dinner.
I'm right there with you. Actually, no, this girl always knows what she's gonna be eating for dinner, okay? I'm like constantly thinking about what I'm eating. Promise, it is not scary at all. I got you, so let's get into it. Now, what I love about this strategy is that you can do it at any point in your UX journey. And what I mean by that is if you're watching this video and you're trying to become a UX designer, there are a ton of different steps of becoming a UX designer, right? Discovery stage about thinking, maybe I should become a designer, or maybe I shouldn't. You have the learning part where you're learning UX, you have portfolio creation, and then you have job application, and then you have your job. You can honestly start this niching down process at any point in time. I'm gonna give you 3 perfect ways to find the niche for you so you can get out there in that job market and be that special star amongst all those boring circles. The first step is passion. Passion, baby. Go with what excites you the most, because I am investing in longevity here. If you are passionate about a certain area or a certain field, you're going to find the projects much more meaningful, and that will carry over onto your projects and your portfolio. Trust me on this one. Obviously, if you aren't passionate about any certain area in UX, not trying to be rude, but like maybe you should go do something else.
She doesn't even go here.
So definitely do upfront research on what any of those areas are and if that's something that you can see yourself getting excited about. And I'm gonna list some of those niches in the next step, so just stick around. Once you pick the niche that you're excited about, now you're gonna double down on that research and see if there are any job listings on that in your local area. This one's where you might run into a little bit of roadblocks and challenges and you're like, man, I found something. Why is my voice cracking? Man, I found something that I love and I'm so passionate about, and then you realize you live in like, I don't know, like Shade Tree, Ohio. I literally just made that up. I don't even know if that's a place, and if you live there, no worries. And then you're like, wait, there are no UX design jobs. That's something we want to avoid. And you want to see if there's some action going on. Like, you don't want to see some stale job listing in your niche that's been sitting there for like 3 months. You want to consistently see week after week, like, oh, here's another job role popping up in that niche. Here's another job role. And you want to make sure that things are actually stable, because my biggest concern for you is that you pick a niche that is literally not even accessible in your hometown area and you're not willing to move. And I'll give you an example. I live in San Diego, and interestingly enough, the gaming industry is huge here. So in your first step, if you found that gaming was something that really excited you and you started looking at roles in that industry on LinkedIn and you saw that there are constant open roles at like Sony or Riot Games, then you might have found a perfect match. From there, you can tailor your case study to focus more on like player flows or game menus, or eventually maybe even VR, and like really take that leap. And that's a perfect way to stand out in that crowd. I'm gonna list out a few niches that I've been researching and seeing some pretty good traction on. The first one is CRM, and that's actually the field that I'm in right now. I'm a senior product designer at a software as a service company. So some example of companies are like Notion, Adobe, HubSpot, Asana, Dropbox. So if you see a lot of traction in those industries and designing software is something that excites you, then that might be a good place to start. The second one that I was looking at is e-commerce, and I love to put e-commerce in there because your girl loves to shop and she uses every kind of e-commerce platform out there, so it's just easier to get inspiration. And those companies can be either Shopify or Klarna, which is in the e-commerce space, or you can go more consumer and design for sites like Nordstroms.com or like Yeti or like Stanley or even like Neiman Marcus. And then I'm just gonna rapid fire a bunch of other ones just so you guys can kind of get some inspiration. I'm gonna look at my computer. Healthcare, which is pretty big, and I love that one because it's pretty stable in terms of like recession proof. Also, very much so, watch this video if you haven't already about how to get a job if there aren't any jobs out there. I know, my wizardry. Banks are also really stable. Those are kind of recession proof as well, or like finances, so like PayPal, Visa, Stripe, or even like Chase, Wells Fargo, anything in that fintech lane. There's also mobile that casts a very big net, but it's also pretty niche because how you design is going to be so different from how you would design on web. And this one's kind of fun, but AI, obviously, I mean, like, it is so hot right now, but I will say that one's really high effort, high reward. It is not easy to learn about AI design. I've worked on a couple projects using prompt engineering. It is a doozy. So if you're still very new to UX design, maybe I table that for a passion project. But if you have the time and you're willing to put in the work, then I would do that one. If this is really daunting, I completely understand. Like if someone told me to do this 6 years ago, I'd be like, girl, please, as if I have the time. However, again, if you want to get that job, you're gonna have to put in a little bit of extra work. But I will say another approach that you could take is instead of choosing one thing to specialize in, like if your portfolio only has bank stuff and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to do any more finance stuff, maybe you can switch it up and do like 2 fintech and 1 healthcare. So that's always one strategy. Another one would be to create 2 different portfolios. Now, I've seen a couple people do this. I genuinely don't understand how they have the time. I don't know if they have a social life. I don't know if they go boogie on the dance floor or drink wine, because I don't know how they do this. But if you are seriously willing to commit, I'd say create 1 portfolio that's generalized that you can spew out into the dark ether of circle portfolios, and then create 1 specialized one that's like your shining star. So when that perfect role opens up, you shoot that one across and you have a higher chance. I acknowledge that one's a massive amount of effort. But again, if you've been doing this for months and months or years, and being a UX designer is like your dream job, I highly recommend taking a more radical approach like that. Once you choose your niche, you kind of know the strategy that you're going in, it's time to update your portfolio, revamp it, pick a passion project or a personal project, maybe redesign one of those niches that you're looking at. If you need any help on how to lay out a portfolio, I highly recommend watching one of these videos. It is going to share my first UX portfolio that I ever created, and it got me my first UX design job. And I will disclaimer and tell you in that very video, I talk about how you should diversify your case studies. But again, this video is just showing you another approach if that first approach is not working for you. I hope this video was helpful. Please let me know down in the comments if you've tried this before. I know you guys are gonna kill it. It's gonna be a good year. I also do have a video right here talking about the job market, how it is turning around. So I hope. And so watch that one next, and I will see you next time. Bye.